Hello again. This is Pastor Rick Bachman from the First United Church of Christ in Marshalltown, Iowa, coming to you again in the week before Easter. And as it is looking at from the news, it may be a rough week. In fact, the next week and a half to 2 weeks, I think, are going to be the roughest weeks we've had yet. And that's discouraging. It's certainly not the news we want to hear, but it is the truth. It is a reality that we need to face, and by facing that, I mean we take it as it is, for what it is, and we take it in perspective with the fact that it is a situation that will eventually get better. Ideally, like I say, this next 2 weeks or week and a half will be our worst, and we can start to see it improve. The problem I have is that as we face this time and we look at the news that we're seeing, I often see a problem with the way this pandemic is being reported. The news services are a business. They are designed to sell a product. And unfortunately, fear sells better than hope. And oftentimes, in order to sell better, the news is skewed. It is oftentimes fabricated. We've seen instances where videos have been mislabeled and actually falsehoods placed in front of us as fact, only to be found out later that they're not. So how does that leave us? Well, as Christians, I believe it calls us to be skeptical. And I've been warning you throughout my messages to take your news in small doses. And by no means do I insinuate that you should stop listening to the news altogether. Indeed, you have to stay informed. You need to stay aware of the changing times. But be aware that what you see on a newscast or a newspaper or a magazine may not be the whole story or an accurate story. We are, as Christians, called to live as doves, as Jesus said, but to be as wise as serpents. In other words, we're to be skeptical, and we should be well skeptical. I must tell you that right now, my trust in the media services and the news services is at an all-time low. I cannot tell you one news service that I trust implicitly. Several have been shown to be completely false and inaccurate. Some have been proven to manufacture a new story to fit their narrative, to fit their agenda. And to be honest with you, when I live in times like this, it behooves me and you to be somewhat skeptical of what you see and hear. The beautiful thing about the situation we live in, if you do have internet, is that you have extra time on your hands now with our isolation where you can do the research. When you hear something on the news and you question it, and you should question everything you hear on the news, take it, fact find it yourself. Find sources that you trust, individuals that you can go to who will give you fair and unbiased information. Look for the folks who do not have agendas and seek out what they have to say. Now, I am a firm believer in hearing all sides of the argument. So oftentimes when I hear a news source quote a story, I will go to a liberal press and I will go to a conservative press, and I'll see what both have to tell me. And needless to say, they very rarely agree, but I do get a fuller picture that way. Folks, we have to be aware in these times. We have to be cautious about what we hear, what we see. It is interesting to me that in World War II, cardiovascular disease killed twice as many people as the war did in the United States. Now, cardiovascular disease is directly related to anxiety, fear, and we cannot, again, making presumptions, that all those cardiovascular deaths were related directly to stress and anxiety. But I don't think it's hard to believe that quite a few were. So it's something that we have to take into consideration. If we're living in fear, if we're living in anxiety, if we're destroying ourselves physically because of all the things that we're hearing and seeing, it could be as deadly as the virus we fear. And honestly, that's the most insidious part of this media situation, is that it is feeding that kind of attitude and that kind of problem. So today I want to come to you with words of hope, words of encouragement, words of counsel. Take your media in small doses. Do not take them for fact. Do your own fact checking. Understand that many, if not all, media have agendas. And those agendas are not for you, but for themselves, for causes of their own making and desires. Honestly, can you trust the media? I will tell you no, flat out. I can't tell you one media source that I will say unequivocally, this is completely accurate without any fallacy, without any problems, because these are all human-made. And just like anything else human-made, they have the potential to be in error. And honestly, we as Christians are called to be questioning that and to determine whether that is accurate or inaccurate. So, as you go out today, be aware that not everything you hear is accurate. Some of it is manufactured. Some of it is accurate. It is up to you to determine what is and isn't appropriate for you. It is up to you to discern what is the best course of action for you in these days. I will tell you right now, one of the most frustrating things about people is that we oftentimes go to two full extremes. We have folks out there who are denying that this virus has any variant or is any seriousness at all. It's all overblown hype, and it's just something that the government has done to die, blah, blah, blah. And on the other extreme, we have people licking toilets. Now, I'm going to tell you that both of those extremes are wrong. This is a serious virus. It should be taken seriously. Precautions should be taken. Do not lick toilets. Do not avoid or to ignore all the safety precautions that the government's recommending. Folks, we have to use something that I think is getting to be shorter and shorter supply these days. It's called good common sense. We have to use the brain God gave us to discern how to move in these days. It's hard because, frankly, we are getting conflicting news. We're getting depressing news. Don't do the problem of just listening to one source, one avenue, and one vein of thought on this whole virus situation. It's not healthy. It's not good. Do your research. Do what it takes to be educated and to take the precautions you need. And as far as taking in the media too much, again, I can't say it enough. Do not binge watch the news. It's not good for you. It's not healthy. And in the most part, it's probably not accurate what you're seeing. So what can you do in the alternative? Well, let me suggest an option for you. For every minute of news you watch, spend an equal number of minutes in the Bible. You know, I hear folks all the time tell me how they really think they should be in the Bible more, but they don't have the time. Well, folks, this pandemic has maybe offered you the opportunity that you've never had before. So, while I don't expect everybody to go out and have the entire Bible read before this pandemic is done, although it's certainly possible if you want to do that, I do want to suggest that if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with stress, figure out how much time you're watching that news. And if you're watching a 30-minute news broadcast, my friend, turn over and read 30 minutes in the Bible. That should get you through about 3 chapters. And I'm here to tell you, what you read in that Bible, you can trust. It is accurate. It is not subject to man's interpretation. It is the Word of God. And it was designed for times just like this to get us through hard times and difficult times. It is designed for times like this to help us discern and be accurate in our thinking and our decision making. Friends, we are facing hard times. I cannot sugarcoat that and make it sound better. We are in hard times. And we're not through it. We're not through the worst of it yet. I hope we're getting close. It is my prayer that you, throughout this time, turn more to God than you do to the media. Friends, don't trust the news sources for your information completely. Don't trust them to uplift you, to uphold you, to get you through this time. You have someone more powerful than any news media ever, who's willing to do that for you. God is there, and He desires to be in your life, to comfort you, to guide you, to give you encouragement through difficult times. My friends, take God's newscast. Study His Bible more than you study your news. And in doing so, I suspect you will find a different perspective on this pandemic. Will it make it go away? No, it will not. But it will give you the point of view that it is not a forever situation. We're not all going to die. We're not all going to get this illness. But we are going to go through struggles. And we are going to go through hard times. Throughout the Bible, people have faced hard times. Some of them with God, and some of them without God. And I love the Old Testament because if you look at the Old Testament, you see examples of both. And it's interesting to me that the folks who try to live life without God sound an awful lot like the news media of today. They cry out, they scream about all the terrible things. They have no hope, they have no vision, they have no way of seeing anything other than the dilemma that they're in. But the folks who trust in God see a God who sits on His throne, who does not wring His hands because of this virus, but says, I too can get this through this. Come to me, all those who are heavily laden, for I will give you peace. Folks, as we go through this time together, be in prayer, be in Scripture, and for the Lord's sake, limit your nature to the muse. And finally, before I close, I want to share with you a story of a young boy whose Sunday school teacher was trying to teach him to memorize Psalm 23. And honestly, this little boy was a problematic child. And she got all the rest of the students through their 23rd Psalm quite easily, and this young boy was a struggle. And finally, on the day that she thought he was ready, she says, okay, now recite the 23rd Psalm. And the young boy said, Lord is my shepherd. That's all I need to know. Now, while that young boy failed to recite the 23rd Psalm, I will suggest to you that perhaps that young boy nailed the 23rd Psalm. When the Lord is your shepherd, that's all you really do need to know. If God is on my side, who can be against me? What on this earth can destroy me if God is on my side? My friends, let us take a lesson from that young boy. The Lord is our shepherd, and that's all we need to know. Thank you, and have a God-blessed day.